What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to TDPHINSTALK, home of the real Miami Dolphin fans. Man, do I have a special treat for you all today. I know that it's been some time and everybody's been saying, hey, TD, man, you should have this person, you should have that person. And there's been one name that's been coming across my timeline so often lately. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I got on my little fingers on my phone. I reached out. And we have been blessed over here, y'all. We have been blessed with the opportunity to get a chance to interview one of our very own beat writers in Miami from the Miami Herald. Ladies and gentlemen, please introduce Daniel Oyefusi. What's up, Daniel?
Hey, how you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I know a lot of people are going to be very excited. We got a great show lined up. Before we even get started, man, I have to ask this one question that I ask everybody just about. What is your favorite football team?
My favorite football team, man.
Favorite football? No, it's all good. And I'm gonna tell you why I asked you.
Yeah. Look. Okay, yeah. So I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. So obviously I grew up a big Ravens fan. So I still I'm in the business now, so I kind of put the fandom to the side. But I still check out the Ravens even down here in Miami.
I knew the answer, but I wanted people to hear it, and here's why. Because you've been coming across my timeline for quite a bit over the last few weeks, and everybody who's been saying, TD, you got to get Daniel on. You got to get Daniel on, because one of the things that we starve for in this community is the most unbiased take that we can get. Yeah. And that is needed so greatly. So whenever we found out that we had a beat writer coming from Baltimore, now in Miami, a lot of people got excited. I'm one of those people, because I know that there won't be at least too many emotions involved in your opinion and your take whenever you have something to say about the team. And I think that's what's refreshing to hear. So that's why I asked, and that's why I wanted to make sure everyone else knew, because they're actually going to be able to get what they want, real takes and unbiased opinions about any and everything related to the Miami Dolphins. But before we get into the Dolphins, I got to get to know you better. We all got to get to know you better. I know you went to school. I know you say you're from Maryland. You went to school at Maryland, right?
Yeah. University of Maryland, College Park. Go Terps.
That's what's up, man. I'm sorry, my mic was a little high. I didn't realize, but I just adjusted it. But that's what's up, man. So upon graduation, I mean, what happened from there? What allowed you to end up in Baltimore writing about the team?
Yeah, so I used my 4 years at Maryland, had a lot of fun there, and did a lot of various internships. And my senior year, I got to this program called the Sports Journalism Institute, which is essentially a sports reporting program for get the opportunity to be in that program. And I got a postgraduate internship through that at the Memphis Commercial Appeal down in Tennessee. But just kind of the way luck and just favor kind of came across me. A month before graduation, I had done a bunch of internships, and I had talked to various people, and I had never interned at the Baltimore Sun. I was trying to, but I never got the opportunity to. But I knew people who knew people, so just through those connections, I gotten a call from the managing editor there, and he said, "Hey, we got a position as like a backup Ravens writer. If you're interested, and we'd like to interview you for it." And right around that time, I'd also applied. I'd seen it myself, so I'd applied to it. But just through connections and then going through the interview process, I was blessed enough to get that job, the opportunity. So I spent the summer after college, after my graduation in Memphis, and then I went back home to start covering the Ravens. And I was there for 2 years, so I was mainly covering the Ravens. But then I started covering Maryland basketball, Maryland football, and when we had the pandemic and the shutdown, I kind of moved over and I was covering stuff like that. So I was kind of doing it all my 2 years in Baltimore.
So 2 years in Baltimore. So what I'm hearing is graduated from Maryland, ended up in Tennessee, and then back in Baltimore, and you spent 2 years on the basketball side, football side, pretty much all things sports in the area, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Awesome, man. So how did you like it in Baltimore covering more specifically, I guess, the Ravens?
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly like a full circle dream for me. Like I had grown up reading the Baltimore Sun. Like my dad would drive me to school in middle school, and I'd be like reading the Sun. So journalism was always something that's like I've been kind of drawn to. So to be able to kind of fulfill a lifelong dream straight out of college, again, I couldn't ask for anything more than that. So I was like, it was definitely something that I always look back fondly.
So you cover Baltimore, you know all the details, you know all the good stuff. Is that team on the way up or down, do you think? Okay, we're gonna get our first bias answer.
Nah. I think I always kept it real my 2 years there, and I keep it now. I mean, I think that it's a team that they're. I don't think the breaking point is the right way to describe it, but they're kind of in like put up or shut up mode. They've been knocking at the door for a couple of years with Lamar, and they had a lot of injuries last year. But even before Lamar went down, they were the number 1 seed in the AFC, so they have the tools right there. But now it's like, can they kind of break through? And that's the big question for them. I mean, Lamar's going to be there. I know there's questions about his contract, but he's going to be in Baltimore for the foreseeable future, in my opinion. So now it's just a matter of like, can they all put it together and like just make that run. But I mean, they're a young team. They got talent. As long as they have Lamar there, they're going to be in the mix, honestly.
But how long are they going to have him there?
There's a lot of people that are speculating, like, is he not happy with the team? Does he want to leave? I mean, I think he loves Baltimore. I feel like he's really, like, one thing that I really appreciated about his time there, and I was only there for 2 seasons, like his second and his third season. But one thing is, like, he really, like, embraced the city, and the city embraces him. Like, we were joking. We was like, Lamar could run for mayor of Baltimore, and he would win in a landslide. Like, they love him. They ride for him in Baltimore. So as long as, they can get the money straight, they're going to keep working to build that team around him. I think he's going to be there for a long time.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that from you. I hope so. I know you're a fan, so it's looking tough on that front, but we'll see how it turns out. But you brought this up. You brought up the fact that they dealt with injuries. They were the number 1 seed last year. Basically the number 1 team about 8 weeks in. And I remind people of that all the time. And that's what makes me nervous about this year. We got to deal with them early. The least likely to have injuries and things like that. That actually concerns me. But we'll get into some of the football stuff in regards to that. But before we do, you transition from Baltimore. Have you ever been to Miami before you came to Miami?
Nah, man. No, I come to South Florida once, so I'm a part of the National Association of Black Journalists, and they had a convention in 2019. So like right after I graduated, they had one, but it was in Aventura. So I never really been to South Florida. So they marketed it as Miami, and then like I get off at Fort Lauderdale, and then we take the Uber to the hotel. And I'm like, this ain't South Beach. This ain't South Florida. It's like real South Florida. And then I took another Uber down 30 minutes, and then we get to South Beach. And I'm like, all right, this is Miami.
Okay. But Aventura is beautiful.
It is.
My wife loves Aventura. That's her home down there. That's what she wants to be.
It's very nice. And since I've been here, I went up to the mall there. It's very nice. But they marketed it as Miami. So I was
No.
Beach.
Matter of fact, I don't even know what it is. It's its own area between Broward and Miami, man. But that's what's up, man. So you're here. You're in Miami now, right?
Yeah. I'm in Miami Lake specifically. So I'm like 15 minutes from the facility.
How you loving it? How you loving the city? Is this home now?
I'm enjoying it. I know I got the blinds. Up, but you can see it's a beautiful day. That's why everyone asks me, like, what's the weather like? And I'm like, what do you think it's like? So
beautiful, sunny.
Yeah, so, you can't get better than this.
Have you gotten used to this type of heat?
I mean, it gets fairly humid in Maryland, but this is different. Like when I came down here for training camp, I was like, oof.
Put you to work.
I still need to revamp the wardrobe because by the time you get to like October, you can start wearing sweats and everything. And it's like when we're in December here, we still wearing shorts. So I still need to revamp the wardrobe because it's different down here.
It is a different heat. A lot of people aren't used to it, but as long as you're used to humidity, you can eventually adjust to it. And obviously you are. But this is the city, man. It's the fast life. I don't know if you're the type of person that's an in-body or do you get out a lot? Do you enjoy the city, the festivities of it?
See, honestly, I'm a homebody, but like when I came down to Miami, I was like, I gotta get out of that because the first couple months I was down here, everyone was like, you going here, you going there. I know what you doing to the beach. But really, so I was either working during the week or I was on the road traveling to go to games. So I really wasn't doing much. So once the season ended in January, I made sure to get out. I head out to Brickell, I head out to Wynwood. I've been to the beach a couple times. So I'm definitely trying to enjoy it, even though naturally I'm kind of a hermit and I stay in the house a lot.
So is this home yet? Home, this is where I'm going to stay.
I mean, Maryland will always be like my first home, but I'm definitely enjoying here. I plan on being here for as long as y'all will have me. I'm definitely appreciate all the love from the fans and from the readers. I've been enjoying my time here for sure.
Awesome, man. We're happy to have you here. Now, as far as your role with the team, the Miami Dolphins, basically not so much with the Dolphins, but with the Miami Herald, could you explain to the people your role and what is like required of you on a day-to-day basis in covering the team?
Yeah, so my official title is Miami Dolphins beat reporter. So with that comes covering the team from all facets. So I mean, the top priority is writing about the team, almost daily, when there's availability, when there's games, the team from different angles. During games, I do a weekly podcast, the Dolphins in Depth podcast that I do. Like I record it every Tuesday night and it goes up Wednesday. So again, just being on top of the team and providing, wall-to-wall coverage of the team. It's there's very few breaks in between that, but they make sure to get me some days off in between it all.
So the Dolphins in Depth podcast, where can we find that at?
Yeah, you can find it anywhere where you get podcasts. So, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We even have it on the Miami Herald website. We usually embed it into all of our stories so you can get it in those spots.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard it. You can go to the Miami Herald. You can go to wherever you get your podcast, the Dolphins in Depth podcast. Make sure you go check it out. And I'm telling you, this is some valuable content because we have a beat writer that's literally going to tell you the truth, what he really truly thinks about the team, his honest opinion, because there's no vested interest. And that's what I appreciate more than anything. In regards to the Miami Dolphins, you're no longer a rookie, right?
I mean, I'm going into my fourth year on a beat. I mean, on a NFL beat in my second with the Dolphins. So I mean, I'm still learning. I'm still learning stuff every year, every week, every month. But it's crazy to think I'm going into my fourth year covering the NFL.
Veteran. That's what you call a veteran. Basically, this is going into your fourth year, right?
Yeah.
All right. We're about to pick up his fifth year option, y'all. This is a first round pick. All right. All right, man. I mean, coming into Miami, covering a team that has had a lot of stories surround itself. You came into a storm. You
I
came
did.
into a
I didn't
store,
know.
man.
I didn't know what I walked into.
You came into, let me give you a brief. You came into a civil war. You came into all type of off the field issues, ownership, organization. You just came into a lot of information, man. How was it? Like, was it like a shocker, a change of environment? How did you adapt to that?
Yeah, well, I'll say this team makes a lot more noise than the Ravens. Usually you might have a couple big storylines during the year, not too much during the off season with the Ravens, but with this team, it's like every month is something. It comes with the job. And I think, I embrace it honestly. I mean, it's fun. There's some times when I'm like, man, can this team relax? I'm trying to chill, but no, I mean, it's kind of what you live for as a reporter, to be in the middle of like these big stories and to be reporting and to be looked at as the person to provide info on these big stories. So as much as they kind of give me some sleepless nights and they keep me working all day sometimes, I definitely embrace it and enjoy it.
Awesome, man. And I love reading your articles, man. And I really reference them a lot and talk through them with the people on this platform. And again, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you hit the like button if you're loving the content that you're hearing right now. We have Daniel Oyefusi here with us, Miami Herald beat writer. And make sure you go check out Dolphins in Depth podcast on the Miami Herald or wherever you can get your podcast. Now, Daniel, what do you love about this job or enjoy the most?
I think I love that like no day is the same, and you can wake up and the day could take you wherever. Like I remember the day the team traded for Tyreek Hill, so that was after they signed Teron Armstead, and I was like, oh well, they done for the rest of the offseason. Like this is it. They ain't got no money left. and I see the first report from the national reporters, and they're like Tyreek Hill is seeking a trade. And I was about to tweet out like, "Oh, this would be like a nice move for the Dolphins, but I don't know if they're going to be doing that." And it's like as I was like typing up the tweet, I refreshed my app, my Twitter app, and they were like, "Dolphins and the Jets are the top two teams trying to trade from." I was like, "Let me delete that joint." And then 30 minutes later, the Dolphins trade for Tyreek Hill, and it's like the Dolphins just got one of the best players in the NFL, and it's like I had woken up and like had not. I didn't expect that to happen. I didn't know that was happening. So it's just the fact that, you wake up and the day could take you anywhere, really.
Yeah. Is it your first time seeing him in action as far as practice yesterday?
No, the Dolphins, the Ravens played the Chiefs. They played them a couple of times over the past couple of years, and they actually played the 2020 year. So it was pretty much the COVID year when there were no fans. And Chiefs came to Baltimore, and they torched the Ravens that night. Wow. That was an ugly game. So it's not. I've seen him in person. He's legit. I was getting flashbacks from that Monday night game when I saw him yesterday.
Awesome, man. Some people get nervous. He is getting a little older and things of that nature, but it doesn't look like he's lost the beat at all. Did you see that high flying energy yesterday?
Yeah, I think the first play of team drills, they hit him over the middle, and there was like nobody within 10 to 15 yards of him. And I just looked back at the other beat reporters, and I was like, ooh. I was like, this guy's legit. So, it's definitely going to be a big.
Man, see, that's what I love to hear, man. So let me get back to one more thing about, your role in what you love to do. But what is it that you don't like about the job, if there's anything?
Man, that's a good question because there's very few things that I don't like about the job. It's kind of the time restrictions is a double-edged sword. I do love that. Like again, like every day is different, it's spontaneous. But sometimes it's like you really, really like. Sometimes you really just want to like put the job to the side and kind of close everything and decompress and just like log out. And it's like you can never really, really do that because you still do have to kind of monitor stuff. You still have to kind of keep tabs on stuff. So maybe that's the one thing. But it's like you enter this industry knowing that. They say you got to be willing to give up weekends and holidays to do this industry. And last year, I couldn't go home for Christmas because the Dolphins were playing the Saints on Monday night. But it's just one of those things where you understand that it comes with the industry.
Well, I'm sorry that you're not going to be able to go home this year either. Green Bay on
Hey,
Sunday.
I mean, Christmas in Miami that's not a bad, background. I'm not complaining about Christmas in Miami. So,
well, you got a good point there. So, all right, I got to ask you some of these tough questions. All right, well, it ain't gonna be tough for you, but is this team making the playoffs in your opinion this year?
man, I gotta tell you. So, I've been real bullish on them, like with all the offseason additions. Like I've been very, very bullish on them. I'm not willing to say records or yeah, they are going to make the playoffs. I think I'll say this. I think that what they're trying to do with McDaniel and revamping this offense, I'm very confident that it's going to work. To what extent it's going to work, I don't know. But I saw the schedule come out on Thursday, and we knew who they were playing for months. But I seen the schedule, and I'm like, man, like there's no pushovers on that schedule. I mean, there's a couple weeks, couple stretches where maybe they can rack up some easy wins, but it's not going to be like last year where they started 1-7 and we knew, oh yeah, they can flip the switch and they can beat up on the Texans and the Giants and Panthers, Jets. That's not going to happen with this schedule, especially that December schedule. I mean, they got to play the 49ers, the Chargers, the Bills, the Packers, the Patriots. Like they're not going to just like coast through the second half of the schedule.
I noticed this schedule has a brutal first quarter.
Yep.
A brutal end of the second, early third, and a brutal fourth.
It's just hard in general. And it's funny, like, to say that with the team that finished third in the division, like, they should be playing the cupcakes.
Yeah.
But then they got to play the third place team in the AFC West. So that's the Chargers. That's the up-and-coming team. They got to play the third place team in the NFC West. So that's the 49ers. And then they got to play the entire AFC North. Like, it's a tough schedule for sure.
But you know all the acquisitions we made this offseason. You know what the team was last year. You know what we've gotten rid of. You know what we've brought in from a coach's standpoint and player personnel standpoint. Where are our holes at?
I mean, I think that they've done a really good job to mask a lot of the deficiencies from last year. But if there's one area where you can say there's still question marks, I mean, it still is on the offensive line. We know Teron Armstead is going to be the left tackle, but we still don't really know who's going to be the center. We still don't really know who's going to be the right tackle. If Michael Dieter doesn't start at center, if maybe they put Connor Williams there, then who's going to play left guard? So you still do have some questions about, where exactly, who slots into those positions on the offensive line. And that's the major question. I mean, that was the one thing that really held them back from, being a 9-8 team or a team that started off 1-7, from being that type of team, from being a team that was like a legitimate playoff team. It was really the offensive line. So again, Mike McDaniel is like, he has pretty much put this offensive coaching staff together to build up this offensive line. So that's going to be the major question. I mean, it's the same question we said last year. We said, however good the offensive line is, I mean, that's how good the Dolphins are going to be in 2021. And we saw that. So it's the same thing. Yeah. However good the offensive line can be in 2022, that's how good the Dolphins are going to be in this season, because the defense is more or less going to be there. I mean, there might be a little bit of regression, but they brought all the guys back. They have the skill position players, but you can't do much on offense if you don't have a good offensive line.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Daniel just told you this team is still relying on this O-line, and it's sad where you're saying that the O-line is the team that's gonna, however well they do is how far you can go. Is that a fair assessment?
I mean, it is. I mean, the offensive line, I mean, it significantly, held them back last year. We know that Tua didn't have a lot of guys to throw to. The running backs, weren't the best in the NFL, but it really came down at its core to the offensive line. I mean, in terms of run block and in terms of pass protection, it limited so much of what they could do on offense. So again, if they can get the offensive line right, start to run the ball a little better, I mean, it opens up stuff for play action. You can take pressure off Tua. You can control the time of possession. The defense isn't on the field as much. I mean, so much kind of just goes back to having a competent offensive line. Like, they don't have to be a top 10 group, but they can't be like a bottom 10 group. That's the thing. I mean, they were literally the worst offensive line in the NFL. If you can get that up to like the 16 to 20 range, then it's like, all right, we're working with something there.
Yeah, I said if they can get to 13, we win in the Super Bowl, but that's me. So what are our weaknesses?
I mean, again, it's just that offensive line. Like, we just don't know how good they're going to be. I mean, if you look across the board, I mean, it's one of the more.
I didn't phrase that. I meant on defense.
On defense, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think the middle of the defense is still a question. You know, we know the strength of that defense is in the secondary with Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, Javon Holland, Brandon Jones. Like, I mean, that's one of the better if not the best secondary in the NFL. And they have a great defensive front with Agba and Wilkins and Sealer and all those guys, and obviously Jalen Phillips and Van Ginkel. But that middle of that defense is still maybe like the one question mark that you have. And they did draft Channing Tindall in the 3rd round. So he's that guy who can kind of solidify the group. But I think it was a good move too, because they added more speed there. But the question is, like, how quickly is he gonna get acclimated there? You know, they like to play Jerome Baker on the outside. You know, and then Atlanta Roberts is kind of like the thumper, the early down guy, but they need more speed in the middle of that defense. So hopefully, I mean, maybe they got that in Tindall, but it's a matter of, you know, he's a rookie, you know, and he's a 3rd round pick at that, you know, end of the 3rd round guy. I mean, you don't want to put too much on his plate or come in with high expectations from him from the jump. But that middle of that defense is probably like the one question mark that you have about that unit.
But you mentioned something, you know, you were solid when you said this. You said that defense, whether it, you know, stays the same or even regresses a little, how do you, like, where do you see a potential regression?
I mean, it's just like, you know, football is a weird game. Like, you can have talent, but just like weird stuff happens. You have different breaks. I mean, they led the NFL in takeaways in 2020. And, you know, there was a tad bit of a regression. I mean, they didn't have as many takeaways there. So just little stuff like that. I mean, knock on wood, injuries. I mean, a lot of, you know, success in the NFL is a lot of times predicated on talent, but a lot of times just predicated on luck. And again, knock on wood for the Dolphins, they didn't have any significant major injuries at all last season outside of Tua missing, you know, those first couple games, and then Raekwon Davis missing, you know, 3 or 4 games earlier in the year. So just little stuff like that. I mean, you just never know. I mean, again, I think that there's also a fair question of like how good the defense is going to be without Brian Flores, because we know that he was really the mastermind behind that unit. So now that Josh Boyer is kind of taking the reins, he's going to be running the show completely. He's going to be making the calls and really leading that group. So there are fair questions like, without the person who kind of orchestrated this defense, how good are you going to be? And again, I think that they have the talent there where, you know, they might not be a top 10 unit, but they should still be like a top 13, 14 unit. Like, they should definitely be in the top half of the league in terms of most defensive statistics.
Man, okay. I want to try to dive down into that D line. Because one thing we've struggled with that a lot of people don't realize, because we mask it with the zero look, we struggle with organic pressure at times.
Yeah.
Just if you just gotta sit in the 4, you know, it's just not very effective. But I'm glad that we brought back Agba. You still have Jalen Phillips, and then you bring in Melvin. In Van Ginkel, you still have guys like that for the outside edges. But I want to talk about 2 guys in specific, Zealer and Wilkins. Okay. One, we're dealing with the contract right now, which I'm a skeptic in regards to his contract getting done. It's the same thing. I was a skeptic about Laramie Tunsil, as far as getting him the deal that he deserves, by the way, because we were going through a rebuild and I knew the value of a trade, and everybody killed me for it, but it happened, right? But Christian Wilkins, one of those guys for me, because he's beyond valuable. We love him. There's no negative within him. You know, this isn't a case of not liking him. He's perfect for us. But when you have a guy like Zealer, who's going to make a lot less money if you were to sign him long term.
Yeah, I mean,
some could argue Zealer, this is where the debate can come, but just the fact that it's a debate needs to open eyes that he was just as productive, if not more. And I know PFF isn't the gospel, but they even had him rated number 3 in the NFL and Christian at number 6. He was very productive as a pass rusher and a run stopper. But I also see how Christian is beasting up the middle as well. Is this a potential situation where the Miami Dolphins could actually move on next year from Christian Wilkins and flip him like Laramie Tunsil and get a load and continue to draft for the future because you'll have a cheaper option?
Well, I'll start off with one or two things. I mean, even I don't think a trade is on the Dolphins' mind, but even so, I don't think that the value for Wilkins would be near what it is for Tunsil. You know, it's different position. I mean, a franchise left tackle is different from a very good interior defensive lineman. But I mean, I think that they plan to have Christian Wilkins in Miami for a long time. I mean, we already saw that they exercised the 5th-year option. Chris Greer spoke highly of him at the NFL Combine. You know, he's a leader. I mean, he's one of the most tenured players on the entire team now. He's only been here for like 4 years, but he's one of the most tenured players. He's a leader. He's gotten better every single year. You know, he's not, you know, he's obviously not like Aaron Donald or anything like that. But he does a lot of things really well. And the hope is that like he's still just getting better. I mean, again, he's entering his 4th year. So the hope is that he's still getting better. But again, I also think that they like that depth there. I mean, yeah, Sealer is very good in a limited role, but you know, sometimes guys, when they get, you know, 60 snaps compared to 30, they're not as productive. And I think that the Dolphins definitely like that depth on the defensive line, because, you know, those guys, it's tough sometimes for those guys to play 50, 60 snaps and be effective for the entire game. So they like being able to rotate those guys. I think that there's a place for both of those guys, as we've seen.
Seeing a lot of things you named, I just felt like you were describing Tunsil all over again. You know, they like him. He's a leader, other than the position difference, which you make an amazing point.
Yeah.
I just, it just has me looking at it, because right now, when I look it up, the Miami Dolphins are actually negative next year in salary cap. We know they're going to move stuff, some guys, blah, blah, blah. But Christian, isn't he going to get paid?
I mean, he is, and I'm personally interested to see like what that deal looks like. I mean, there's a couple of guys in this draft class that were, you know, defensive linemen, also drafted in the 1st round, and I'm interested to see like what the terms would be. You know, they can make it work. I mean, if they want to make it work, they can make it work. And I think that the one real difference in terms of the situation with Tunsil and Wilkins is, I mean, that was and Chris, I mean, Stephen Ross even kind of admitted it, like back in 2018, like 2018 going into 2019, like that was not a roster that was like ready to win now or win in the future. I mean, they had to really strip the team down and like get assets to draft young players and like kind of get that pipeline going. I mean, by all accounts, at least the Dolphins are telling us that this team is ready to win now. So, you know, trading one of your better players, I mean, for additional draft assets, I mean, that doesn't even like kind of fall in line with the thinking of the team right there. So again, I think that they plan on him being here. It's just obviously, you know, contract deals, negotiations, sometimes that can take a while. That can, you know, because you have the back and forth and the agent's trying to get everything that he can and the team's trying to save a dime here and there. But again, I think that they plan to have him here for a while.
What about on the back end, the secondary? Like, have we prepared for the contingency plan, or better yet, the future? Byron Jones, Xavier Howard. Howard bought himself a little longer, but are we preparing for the future? Because I know Noah is a guy, and we'll wait to see what he does this year. But what do we look like, you know, in the future at the position if we're not preparing now?
Yeah, so that's a good question, because if you ask some people, they'll say like backup cornerback, nickel cornerback is probably like the biggest glaring hole on this team right now. And it's hard to argue with that, because, you know, behind X, Byron, and Nick Needham at nickel, it's like who can step in and really get the job done. And frankly, I mean, there's nobody. I mean, Noah is a 1st-round pick, but he hasn't shown much. But I will say that, like, I don't know if there are many teams in the entire NFL who have like a legitimate like 4th cornerback. Like, if you get into your 4th cornerback, I mean, things are kind of dire as it is. But in terms of the future, I mean, that's a good question. Like, I think Noah, you definitely hope that's the guy. You know, Byron and X are kind of getting up there in age. I mean, they're not old by any means, but they've been in the league. You said what?
Money's high.
Yeah, I mean they're paying these guys a lot, and obviously they reworked Byron's deal, and there was some speculation that he might not be in Miami next season, but
So they
they kept
did
him.
rework his deal.
Yeah, I mean they turned it into a signing. They turned the base salary into a
I
signing.
knew it because I looked at the numbers. I said this ain't what the numbers used to be, and it makes sense. They because they did free up some cap space, but they basically gave themselves some dead cap down the road to stretch it out. Okay, well, that makes me feel a lot better, especially about that situation. But it's still a matter of how long they're going to keep that on the books.
I mean, I think that this is definitely a team that, through their actions this offseason, like they think they can win now. They think they can win next season. So again, there's not, if knock on wood, I keep on saying knock on wood because the Dolphins have had very, very good injury history, very, very good injury luck these past few seasons. If there's not a lot of proven options behind X and Byron, but again, it's like if you have guys that good. You just kind of focus on the right now and hope that those guys can kind of lead that group, which they've done.
Well, last question about Byron and X. So 2 years ago, we struggled in the first 5 games with Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think it was X that was nursing an injury, if I'm not mistaken, him and or Byron for the first
Byron
5 games.
Byron missed 2 games early in the 2020 season.
And we were zone heavy because of it.
Yeah.
And last year in those first 7 games, you correct me if I'm wrong, acknowledge me if I'm right. One and or both of those guys were still kind of recovering from an injury. And many people say that's exactly why we played a lot more zone in those first 8 games, which we played a lot of zone in those first 8 games. Do we have 2 healthy corners day one this year? Because I know Byron just had surgery as well.
Yeah, he had like an ankle Achilles procedure. By all accounts, it looks like he's going to be ready to go by training camp. But I wouldn't expect to see him. I wouldn't expect to see him at any of these OTA practices. And McDaniel said like some of these veteran guys who like they're established or maybe health wise it just doesn't make sense. They're not going to be out here. So we didn't see X or Byron out there on Tuesday, and I wouldn't expect to see them for the next up until mandatory minicamp. But I think excuse me, I think X is in a good spot. I mean,
awesome.
Obviously, him and Byron had like some nagging injuries in the middle of the season, and you're right. I mean, they were not playing man as much as they were doing. They were not blitzing as much. And I think part of that was due to the fact that they were a little hot. But I mean, both of them were out for that Jacksonville game in London. But it seemed like for the most part, X got through the season fairly well. I haven't heard about any off-season procedures. So he looks like he's good. He's going to be good to go for training camp. Byron as well. And again, you just keep on knocking on wood, hope everyone stays healthy because the Dolphins have been really good in that front. And, I think that those guys should be ready to go for training camp.
Awesome, man. So Noah made some plays, I hear. I need to hear stuff like that, man. What do you think about the kid at this point, everything he's been through, the task that he has in front of him? Because the reality is, if we want to be honest, he's going to have to prove something this year. What's your thoughts on it?
So I got to preface my comments by saying, I'm Nigerian. Noah's Nigerian, so that's automatically my Nigerian brother. So if I'm a little biased about anything, it's about a Nigerian athlete. So maybe I'm a little biased there. But yeah, I mean, you don't want to make too much of it of the off-season workouts because it's like for the most part it's either against air or the offense is playing against a defense that's not really trying to make plays on the ball. But it was good to see it. I mean, he Tua threw a little slant pass to Waddle, and it was a little high, but Noah got his hands on it. He broke it up, and everyone was giving him props for it. He made another play a couple plays later, and he was kind of mixing it up with one of the tight ends. And I asked Nick Needham about it. He was like, "Man, that's what you want to see. You want to see somebody with an edge." So yeah, I mean, he spoke about how he knows the first 2 years haven't really gone as planned. They haven't gone matched the expectations of him or the team. But he's like, hey, I can't really do anything about the past. I'm just trying to stay in the present. And again, I mean, he's a first round pick, so it's like those guys are going to get a lot more time, and they're gonna have a longer leash, so to speak. So again, I mean, I expect him to be on this roster in 2022. It's just a matter of like where he kind of fits. Because again, they got X on one side, they got Byron on the other side. I mean, they're not going to be rotating Noah in to get snaps. He hasn't really played any nickel cornerback, so it's like the question is like where does he fit? And I think for him it's just like being active. Like he was inactive. He couldn't even play special teams last year. I mean, they were undrafted rookies who were getting the nod over him. So now it's just like getting the trust of those guys. So hopefully, Sam Madison, Patrick Surtain can kind of help him a little bit. Maybe he has a new voice in his ear. Maybe that helps. So all you can do is kind of root for him and hope that he can kind of put it all together, because he is a first round pick at the end of the day, and there are expectations that come with that.
So, and we rooting for you, Noah, man. Come on, give it to us this year, baby. Speaking of a player who I personally believe needs to make his name known this year, tell me what your thoughts are about Hunter Long. He's the most non-talked about person that I think is going to be very important, because we brought in a great tight ends coach, and they franchise tag Mike Gesicki. And in my personal opinion, that just means that you don't know if that's what you want to commit to long term. So how huge is this season for Hunter Long?
Now, it's a big season. I tried to pull some stuff out of John Embry, the new tight ends coach, last week when we spoke to some assistants, and he didn't want to single out one particular person. He was like, "Hey, I'm really happy about what all the tight ends are showing." But yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a big year. I think that there's potentially a role for him. I mean, we know that this is an offense that uses multiple tight ends. Sometimes we use 3 tight ends at the same time. And really, when you look at it, I mean, outside of Gesicki, he Hunter Long might be the most capable receiving tight end. I mean, he put up some big numbers at Boston College. So in terms of like the size and having the optimal speed, I mean, he has it. What happened in his rookie year for him to be inactive for all the games and not really make much of an impact, I'm not really sure. I think it may have been one of those things where obviously he suffered a bit of a knee injury in training camp. He missed some time. Maybe that played a role. It may have been one of those cases where, he just was a rookie that just wasn't ready. I mean, it happens. And I know he was a 3rd round pick, but sometimes you're just not really ready and you're not better than the guys in front of you. And they had multiple veterans there in Gesicki, Smythe, and Shaheen. So sometimes it's like, hey, you're just not ready for that moment. So hopefully, again, it's the same tight ends group, but hopefully, maybe with this offense that uses tight ends more, with another year under his belt, maybe he can get in the fold. But it's definitely a big year for him.
Man, I'm rooting for him too, man. That would be a very good value pick to save money long term potentially, and allow him to grow in that role, because I'm one of those individuals. I love our players, but I'm a Dolphin fan. Whatever's best for the team long term. That's why I love the future. I'm like that Bill Belichick guy. I got an all-pro. Go get paid somewhere, and we got your replacement that already sat a year behind you. So I love Gesicki. It's just that's just how I am about it. Speaking of guys in that situation, I wanted to actually bring it to your home turf in Baltimore. Okay. I want you to, run a hypothetical with me.
Oh,
Michael Dieter's your center in Baltimore.
Okay.
JC Tretter's at home on the couch. Are you good just going into the year the way that it is right now? Because I like Dieter. He's grown. But at the same token, competition. Let me just put it like that to ease it. Competition. We don't have any at the position outside of your left guard, and I don't like that idea. So with that being said, do you just go in the season with Dieter and see how it works out, or with this team that can win now, do you go for broke and give JC Tretter a call?
I mean, it's funny because the Ravens' offensive line was pretty bad last year too. So it's like if I saw a Pro Bowl center on the couch, I mean, I'd probably be banging the table for it as well. And I don't know what's been going on with the JC Tretter front. I mean, I think that he's been more. I think he's been more clamored about by fans as opposed to actual reports linking him to Miami. To be honest, for the past couple months. So for them to not make that move, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, they have the money to if it's a money thing, I mean, it shouldn't be a money thing because they have the money. So it might just be them just looking internally and liking what they have internally. We talked to the offensive line coach, Matt Applebaum, and he said they're moving guys around and kind of experimenting with stuff. And, I can't say exactly, who was lining up where at OTAs, but I mean, they're definitely, working guys on the offensive line.
That's the most nerve-wracking thing for me to hear, bro. Oh, we're experimenting and moving things around. We are so used to hearing that.
I think all teams do that, though. I think especially during this time of the year. I think when you get to training camp and you're like 2-3 weeks away from the start of the regular season, you would like to have like those 5 guys in their spots, and from left to right, you want to have that knocked down. But at this time of the year, especially when you have like a new coaching staff who they need to see these guys work like in front of them. They got to see it with their own eyes. I think that's perfectly normal to kind of move guys around. But even Applebaum said it, like they were like, in regards to the center spot, they were like, what if you're like, halfway through training camp, a couple weeks away from the regular season, and you don't have like a starting center like locked down? And he was like, I think by then we'll know who the guy is. So they're definitely working with the plan to have that offensive line group, locked in, sometime in training camp. I would hope that they wouldn't go into week 1 with this still being a mystery kind of up in the air.
Wow. Let me ask you this, Eric Ezukanma. What's your first impressions?
I mean, that's my other Nigerian brother. So, they got a couple Nigerians on the team. They got him, they got Ebron, they got Agba. So the Nigerians representing in Miami. But no, I mean, it's an interesting pick. Like when they announced it, I was like I had never, honestly, them drafting a wide receiver with one of the 4 picks never crossed my mind, truth be told. So when they picked him, I had to like do my research on him. And the more you kind of dig into it, you're like, okay, I can see how he kind of fits. He's a bigger target. Yeah, exactly. He's a bit of a bigger target. But if you watch the highlights, if you read up on him, I mean, he fits their offense in terms of guys who can play different spots. Like he can play outside, he can play inside a little bit. He can do some of those jet sweep handoffs, those wide receiver handoffs out of the backfield. And he's a yak guy. I mean, he plays through the catch, he plays through contact. So again, I think most people were surprised that they picked a wide receiver with one of those picks and with their second pick too. But you see the way he fits. I don't know if he really makes an impact at year 1 because they have like 5 off who I think are going to be a priority over him. But he is maybe one of those kind of long-term plays where, he plays special teams a bit. They find a couple packages for him and, down the line, maybe he grows into a bigger role on offense.
Gives a shot, man. That's the one. That's definitely. I'm keeping an eye on him. I want to go to our last pick of the draft, because Eric is a scheme system type guy for the Mike McDaniel system, but and not like he's going to be our starting quarterback or nothing like that. But they did bring in a young kid that is also perfect for this type of system, and our young quarterback. What's your thoughts about him?
Yeah, I mean that's another position that I didn't think they were gonna dip into. So I didn't look at any quarterbacks when I was doing my pre-draft research. But yeah, it's just another of those guys where like you look into it and you're like, okay, I can see the vision, I can see what they're trying to do there. So he played in a West Coast offense in Kansas State, which is the Dolphins are running a West Coast offense with McDaniel. He's experienced. He was at Kansas State for like 5 years, and so I think he has 40 starts under his belt. He's 25 years old, so he's played a lot of football. Apparently, if he didn't suffer like some of the injuries that he did in college, he probably would have been like a day 2 pick. So it's one of those, again, it's kind of one of those long plays. They got Teddy B as the backup this year, but maybe they sneak Skylar Thompson on the practice squad. He can get some reps in, and maybe down the line he's a backup quarterback. Obviously, we know Tua is the quarterback this season. There's no question about that. But it's just one of those. I think it was one of those deals where like they talk about taking the best player available, and it's like it doesn't matter what position it is. We just gonna get good players in and then make it work. So I think that's what happened with Thompson, and you can definitely see the vision with him.
Developing him for a potential future solidified backup role, or
a cheap one too, because they're paying Teddy a lot of money to be the backup. So if you can pay your backup like $800,000 and he's like a legitimate backup, I mean, you're saving money to go somewhere else.
Or you found your next Russell Wilson or Brady. I don't know. You never know.
I ain't gonna get into that. I'm not trying to have the Tua fans on my head.
No. I mean, at the end of the day, we all know that this is going to be Tua's ultimate shot. They're not going to make in my personal opinion, at least, unless you think otherwise, they're not going to make a contention in that area. We know Tua's our starter. We know Bridgewater's the backup, and then they bring in Skylar to develop for the future. But in those regards, because last year, when our starter did go out, we were a floating ship in the sea, and couldn't pick up a win here and there. So it's very interesting. A lot of people have been asking, not in terms of him replacing our starter or nothing, but in the event that we need our backup to play a few games, how has Teddy looked so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's just one practice, and it's a 1 hour session, and it kind of flies by because a lot of times they're doing individual work, and they do a little bit of 11 on 11, 7 on 7 there. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There was a lot of talk about the deep ball throwing, the video that the Dolphins social team put out. There was a section of practice where they did like just kind of one, not even 1-on-1. It was 1 against 0, like receivers just running routes, running deep patterns.
Yeah, that was some of the videos.
And all the quarterbacks were throwing to him. And I'm not gonna lie, Tua threw the best deep ball out of all of them.
Nice.
Like
that's what we need to hear.
I got to be honest, Tua threw the best deep ball out of all of them. But Teddy looked good. I mean, Teddy hit Tyreek Hill a couple times in practice, and I mean, Teddy's solid. I mean, that's what you can say about him. I mean, if anything were to happen to Tua and Teddy needed to go in, I think that Teddy could get the job done. Is he necessarily got it? Maybe you want to is going to lead you to the playoffs. That's a little up in the air. I mean, I think you're going to really need, the others around him and supporting cast to really lift the team up if that's the case. But Teddy can go. I mean, we know Teddy can go in there and win games because he's proven it year after year in the NFL.
I think that's so important that you were very descriptive and honest and open about that because that's what us as Dolphin fans, we need to hear. It's been 2 years of not hearing that about our starting quarterback, first off, having the competition, but just to hear that from you, he threw the best deep ball. These are the things that we've been craving. And I just hope the kid has an amazing season and lead us to something special. What's your outlook for him long-term as far as, I guess, level in this NFL? Can he reach the epitome of a Drew Brees, or will he be a Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, or a Jimmy G? What's your thoughts on that long-term projection?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm looking at the different tiers of the QBs that you laid out, and I'm like, even if he's a Jimmy G gets a lot of hate, but hey, he's been on a team that's won the 2 NFC championships. You could say they did it in spite of him, but hey, Jimmy G is a very solid quarterback, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, obviously, when you're number 5, I mean, I would say, obviously, when you're number 5 overall pick, there's expectations that come with that. You're expected to be a bona fide franchise guy. But Tua long term, I mean, you really can't say long term because it's all about year 3 right now. I mean, we know about the Deshaun Watson stuff in the past. There's been some Brady rumors this offseason that most people kind of, tried to, dismiss, but I mean, there's a lot of credible reporting on that. But right now, it's Tua's team, it's Tua's year in 2022. And this is everything that matters right now. Yeah. I'm not going to be naive and think, oh yeah, Tua's, his spot is completely solidified. I mean, they have a pair of first round picks next season and a bunch of picks next year. If the Dolphins want to make a move and make a shake up at that position, they will have the means to do so. But again, all that is kind of null and void if Tua goes out there and he plays like the quarterback that he's expected to play like, as a number 5 overall pick. What does that mean exactly? I mean, I can't tell you. I can't tell you that if Tua throws 30 touchdowns and this many yards and that he's going to be solidified. I mean, I think that you'll know it when you see it. You don't need to have like a threshold of stats to check off. Like, you'll see it and you'll see the improvements and know, okay, this is the guy that we can build around. And that's what they're working to, and that's what's going to be so interesting to find out, because they've placed so much talent around him that I feel like when I look at it, I'm like, they're making it very difficult for him to mess it up, so to speak.
Yes.
And I feel like he's not going to have to do much, and I don't mean that in like a derogatory way. I just mean that there's gonna be so much talent around him that he's gonna be facilitating. Like, like everyone's talking about, is he going to be able to throw 50 yards downfield to Tyreek Hill? Tyreek Hill, we just saw Tyreek Hill catch a 15-yard pass and take it the distance in the AFC divisional playoff game. I mean, you don't need to throw it 50 yards every single time to be successful. You can make it work by getting the yak yards, and that's what McDaniel's really focused on. So again, I think that they're putting Tua in a position where like it's going to be very hard to kind of mess it up, and he's just going to have to kind of get the ball to the guys and let them work.
I agree with that, man. Great assessment on that because me personally, I mean, a lot of people think that I'm the biggest ragger of Tua Tagovailoa, but the reality is deep down inside, I want the kid to succeed and be our franchise quarterback because there is no greater profit for the Miami Dolphins other than him being our future, because we get to keep our future draft picks and invest in positions like X or Byron's replacement or whatever it may be. We need that to create a potential dynasty. And I think that this team has done a great job putting enough around him. And also, you mentioned something that I think is very important as well. In the tier of quarterbacks I gave you, he could be any one of them, and it would be good enough. It's really the team overall you put together.
You're right. I mean, Kirk Cousins gets a lot of heat because of his contract and maybe him not showing up in big games. But I mean, Kirk is a solid quarterback. Derek Carr is a very, very good quarterback. Again, I mean, the Dolphins, in my opinion, are just as talented as, if not more talented than those teams that on the quarterbacks that you just mentioned. I mean, of course the quarterback is the most important position, and you need, especially with like the way the AFC is stacking up and all the young talent coming in, you need a very, very good quarterback to be successful.
Yes.
But it's not always just on the quarterback. The quarterback plays a big role in winning, yes, but it's not always on the quarterback. And I think that we've seen that like with the Dolphins, adding so much talent because this roster was not complete. It was a talented roster last year, but they still had some major holes.
I agree, man. Before I get to my last question, I want to say this as well. As far as the QB comparison, I guess me as personally, my cutoff is Baker Mayfield. That's my cutoff. It got to be over that.
You can win with Baker. The Browns surrounded Baker with like arguably the best roster in the NFL, and it was good enough to get to the playoffs. The season before last, I'll say that it was good enough to get them there. So,
and that's where you have to ask yourself, what is the ultimate goal? Playoffs or actually,
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to like settle on a Baker Mayfield level quarterback, but you can win with those. I mean, even now, as Tua is currently like in his current where he is currently in the NFL, you can win with it. I mean, we saw it last year. They won 9 games with Tua missing like 4 of those games. They won 10 games with Tua taking over in the middle of the year. I mean, obviously, he wasn't the reason why they won a ton of those games as a rookie. And even last year, he wasn't necessarily the reason why they won a lot of those games down the stretch. The defense really leading the way. But I mean, if you put him in there, I mean, you can win games. I mean,
he doesn't have to be the reason. He doesn't have to be the reason, but he cannot be. But he cannot be
the reason that they lose. That's right. And that's why more than anything, people talk about like the arm strength and like questioning that. And I'm like, I want to see Tua like not make like that stupid dumb decision that results in a backbreaking turnover. We saw that so many times. We saw that against the Jaguars. We saw that against the Falcons. We saw that against the Jets. Like just minimize the mistakes. And it's funny because like he's such an accurate quarterback, but there's like that one throw that he makes where you're like, what is going on? Like if he can eliminate that,
it's not even. But it's not even a bad. This is what I don't understand. It's not even a bad decision. He's going to like most of his turnovers, interceptions. He's actually going to the right person, but for some reason, it like oversells or undersells.
It's like he short circuits out of nowhere because he's so accurate.
Or overcharged,
Yeah. I mean, it happens. But again, you just want more of those. You want less of like the peaks and valleys and just more consistency in the play. That's really what you need.
All right, man.
I mean, you want more valleys, but you want more consistency over the long haul. Or more peaks. My bad. You don't want valleys. You don't want the valleys. You want the peaks.
So I guess because I know we're running out of time, I'll close it on this because I'd be ashamed of myself if I didn't at least ask about this individual because I feel like this individual is also going to be one of the biggest factors in our success or failure. Just quickly, if you can tell us what's your first impressions of our new head coach, Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everyone. I don't even know where to start with him. He's different. He's different. He's an acquired taste. He walked up to the press conference yesterday with some green Yeezy boots and a gray, Dolphins tracksuit. Like he got the swag to him. So you tip your hat off to him on that front. But he's just interesting. He's a funny guy. He's quirky. He's self-deprecating. He's not your like stereotypical coach. But I think that's what makes everything so interesting. Yeah. I mean, they could have went with a very kind of stereotypical check the box hire, but they got somebody who hasn't really been an offensive coordinator for 10 years or looks a certain way. Like I mean, it's an interesting hire. And it's just been interesting and kind of fun because again, I mean, this is the first head coaching search that I've undertaken. So again, just getting to learn more about him from afar and then learn about him in person. Like we've gotten to speak to him at the combine and stuff like that. It's just going to be interesting because again, he's different. He's outside the box. He doesn't fit like the norm that you would expect from a coach. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, everyone swears by him. Like everyone that's close to him, they swear by him. So that's the one thing I can say.
I'm just interested to see, his ability of calling plays in a real game time situation. That's where I'm going to have my eyes open. Yeah, I agree, man. Well, Daniel, thank you so much. Can you please let the people know where they can find you and where they can find your work?
Yeah, so I mean, the best way to kind of stay up to date with my Dolphins updates and whatnot is on social media at Twitter. You can follow me at Daniel Oyefusi, just like you see right below me. Miami Herald, MiamiHerald.com. Need a subscription, but if you're just interested in the sports, if you want to, just read Dolphins, read Miami Heat, read Marlins, read Panthers, all that stuff. We have a sports only pass, so just go on the Miami Herald website, and you can read that. You can get that there, read our work. And obviously, like we said before, we got the Dolphins in Depth podcast that comes out every week on the Miami Herald website and everywhere where you get podcasts.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, y'all already know what time it is. Make sure you go check out Dolphins in Depth on the podcast, Miami Herald. That's where you can get your information first. Man, one of our youngest, our brightest beat writers. Again, Daniel, thank you so much. I'm going to hit you up on back channels and maybe we can continue our conversations. But I will get with you soon, bro. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate it, man.
Have a great day.
Yep. See you.
Ladies and gentlemen, man, that was a blessing. I just have to be honest with you. Y'all know we don't do many interviews over here because I like to just go and go and go. But that was definitely a blessing. He took the time out of his busy day to come over here and bless us with the hour of his time. So if you have it within your capacity to go show love with the Miami Herald, make sure you go check out his work. Make sure you go to Dolphins In Depth podcast. Shoot him a message on there in the comment sections. Let him know what you think about the articles, man. He is one of our youngest and our brightest. And I'm telling y'all always ask me, y'all say y'all follow me because you know it ain't going to be biased. That's the guy that you want to be reading and listening to. There's no specific vested interest. He respects this team. He loves this team, but there's no vested interest to tell you something that you just want to hear. So that's why one of the reasons I reached out, as well as you all saying, TD, this is the guy you want to get on if you're blessed enough to do so. And sure enough, we were, guys. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to TD Phins Talk, home of the real Miami Dolphin fans. I got another great treat for y'all. I didn't tell y'all this all week. Tonight at 8 p.m. What time is it? In less than an hour, it's going down, baby. AFC East Roundtable. We're talking schedules. We're talking draft. We're talking it all right here on TD Phins Talk. So make sure you come back at 8 p.m. AFC East Roundtable. So you know we got our Patriots, our Jets, and our Buffalo guys coming in thinking that they're the best team in the division. It's time to take this division, baby, and we're going to do it. Man, I'm so happy to hear him say Tua out there throwing the best deep ball because I know Teddy ain't no slouch. I know Teddy ain't no slouch. I believe what just came out of that man's mouth. That excites me. That's what I want to hear about QB1. Yeah, I know he said it's still early, but that's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear that crap we've been hearing the last 2 years. I want to hear exactly what he said, and from somebody who has no vested interest to lie to you. Thank you so much, Daniel. This is TD Phins Talk, home of the real Miami Dolphin fans. I will see y'all soon. Peace. I am out.